The White House says the Food and Drug Administration, quote, acted quickly after it learned that the baby formula plant run by Abbott Nutrition in Sturgis, Michigan, was producing contaminated formula, I should say, and needed to shut down. That was back in February. President Biden has acknowledged he didn't know about the mounting crisis for 2 months. Newsmax chief White House correspondent James Rosen is in our Washington newsroom with this admission. More on this. Good afternoon, James.
Bob, good afternoon to you. The president's comments came in a virtual roundtable discussion that he led yesterday afternoon, featuring administration officials and top executives from the baby formula industry, including Robert Cleveland, a senior vice president with Mead Johnson Nutrition.
Did you anticipate that the closure of the Abbott facility, because it was not producing the quality that was necessary, that would have this profound an effect immediately? Or did it take a little time to?
I think, no, sir, we were aware of the general impact that this would have. No, we knew from the very beginning this would be a very serious event.
Later, however, the president either forgot or willfully misrepresented this statement, which had come in response to his own question, that industry leaders knew immediately the enormity of the impact the closure of the Abbott plant was going to have.
Well, I don't think anyone anticipated the impact of the shutdown of one facility in the Abbott facility.
Did the CEOs just tell you that they understood it would have a very big impact?
They did, but I didn't.
Earlier this morning, President Biden dropped by the Roosevelt Room for a meeting between White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan and the Secretary General of NATO. As they prepare for the next NATO summit to be held in Madrid at month's end, the two also face persistent tensions among NATO member states over what the next steps should be and which steps should be avoided in the Russia-Ukraine war. Bob.
All right, James, thank you very much. Our next guest is calling out Mr. Biden, saying he is completely refusing to accept responsibility. What an absolute shame. Americans deserve better. Joining us now, former Georgia Congressman Doug Collins. Tell me your thoughts. Where do you think the problem began, and where do you find fault with the president in this? And by the way, just to let people, we're talking about the baby formula situation.
Well, look at it this way. You had I don't know what's going on in the White House, but there seems to be a large disconnect between the person who's supposed to be running the country, Joe Biden, and everything going on around him, because everything else is everybody else's fault. And even in a controlled environment, they're going to their specially set up room. You saw just now in the OEB where they're doing all their tapings. And this was a time in which it should have been all controlled. He should have known the questions, the answers. He should have been fully briefed. And then he asked the question as if he had never really knew that there was going to be a crisis. The CEO said, yes, we knew. And basically there's also other implications that they had told the FDA as well. And he said, OK. And then later on, he flipped again in a matter of just a few minutes. This is a problem of somebody who's seemingly not in charge and seemingly at times doesn't care.
You know, what strikes me is it seems like nobody in this White House ever gets fired for anything that goes wrong. I mean, Yellen came out and took the hit for misjudging inflation, even though I think she was just in a room with Biden, and they said, okay, on this one, you're going to take the hit on this. I'm not going to take it. But it seems like you get this ineptitude, or at least the way it comes across, and nobody is held responsible.
Oh, exactly. It's the blame everybody else game. I just recently did on my podcast, I did one that's coming out soon, that Joe Biden is wondering why his numbers are so bad and why people aren't responding to what he's saying. Is because nobody believes him. There's no credibility coming out of this White House because nobody takes responsibility. I mean, it's Putin's gas hike, although it went up almost $1.50 before Putin ever invaded the Ukraine. Not to mention they shut down energy production and went on a tear against it. It's just seemingly that people are tired of not at least taking responsibility. I think more people are forgiving if they just come out and say, hey, look, we knew some people told us that inflation would get bad if we put all this money in it. We thought we could manage it. We didn't. Now we got to make, but they just completely, blow everything off.
Well, and also if you look at the problems that we have on the border, inflation, baby formula, You really don't get solutions. I mean, we've flown in some formula from other countries. Maybe that's a solution. The White House saying they're taking more action by launching a website that shows what they're calling a 24/7 initiative to get more safe infant formula. But my point would be, in concurrence with yours, that when there are problems, the reason people are reacting negatively is they don't see them being fixed.
They don't. One of the things is I thought that the debacle in Afghanistan was going to be the lasting, memory of those people hanging on planes. But now it is so concerning to me that we look like a third world country. Or after a natural disaster, we're having baby formula shipped in from other countries to the United States. This is the solution because it got so bad that we, as the largest economy in the world, couldn't put this up. This is just, this is devastatingly bad, not to mention the gas price and everything else. And now we're shipping in baby formula. We go in a year and a half from basically, in an economy with this working, moving forward, to an economy that is just, holding on by a thread, and they are blaming each other and shipping in baby formula. The images are just devastatingly bad for this administration.
They are. And the White House press secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre, admitting she didn't hear the president take questions about the shortage. This is the person representing the president. Let's hear what she said.
Who is the person in the West Wing who decided after 6 or 8 weeks that this baby formula shortage was finally something that somebody should tell the president about?
Look, again, I have to go back and talk to the president. I did not hear him take questions or answer any questions to all of you. And so I want to do my due diligence, right, as his spokesperson to make sure that I have a conversation. What I can tell you is what we have been doing as an administration since the day one of a recall.
Okay, what strikes me about that, this is the press secretary. So it's not like Biden and Mr. Biden talks to the press all day long, right? So there are only going to be a select few times that she needs to be aware of him meeting with the press and saying something, and then for her not to be aware of it. That strikes me again. In this White House, there's a failure even in the communication process.
It's like the old saying, you have one job. One job, and that is to make sure that these spokesmen that you put out a singular message. One job, man, that's it.
That's right.
And you're telling me there wasn't even an intern listening, that there wasn't even a press aide listening that said, hey, by the way, before you go out there to do the press briefing, you need to know what the boss just said.
Right. Here's what he said, and this is our position on it.
It's crazy because I really honestly believe they stay in their offices scared of what's coming next, and they'll only come out and then they can have plausible deniability. Hey, I didn't listen to it. I don't know what's going on this time. But this is why Americans are so frustrated. This is why people around the world are looking at it and saying, look, we don't get it. And it's why right now there is an absolute election wave coming, and they brought it on themselves, and they don't seem, like I said, they just don't seem to care.
Yeah. Doug Collins, thank you very much. And yes, I do see the Georgia football in the background.
There we go. Take care.